And so that was that. And then sometime during the night she took the... whatever it was, and tried to kill herself.
He didn't hit her. That must have been very... must have been far more painful and hurting than any amount of physical violence. She'd expect that. She's used to it. And disconcerting. I mean, she took it for granted. That's what you did to people. However, the immediate practical details. Where's she going to stay when she comes out of hospital?
Well, she can't be on her own.
Would she consider going into a hostel or something of that kind?
She wouldn't stay long if she did. She'd almost certainly have a quarrel with the people in charge of it and walk out. She doesn't take very kindly to authority of any kind. No, it's got to be somewhere where she can be on her own and yet not be on her own. Somewhere where there's somebody around, all that... I wonder. The woman at the farm, she seemed a motherly sort. I wonder how Sheila would feel about going back there.
And she really did say I could?
For a while, till we can find something else. Mrs. Sachs said they hardly ever use this room now. Oh, and by the way, I'm seeing about getting your social security
Does she know?
What, Mrs. Sachs? Only that your baby's had some kind of accident, that's all.
Are you going to tell her?
No.
But she want to know why Eddie's gone, why I tried to...
She knows that husbands leave their wives and that wives get depressed. And I don't think she'll ask you a lot of questions.
But she knows about you.
But that I'm a social worker with families, that's all.
Are you going to take me to court?
Look, Sheila, do you think we could have a talk and get a few basic points cleared up? If you feel up to it. Would you like to sit down? You ask me if we're going to prosecute you. Well, the answer's no. It wouldn't do any good. Anyway, you punish yourself. I think you always have. Were you punished a lot when you were a child?
Only when I done wrong.
What was wrong?
Everything.
Who to? Your mother and your father? Or just to one of them, or...?
I never had a father. Not one that I remember anyhow. Only a lot of uncles. She used to tell me if it hadn't been for me, she could have got someone nice to marry her, had a good home, and who'd take me with a dirty, messy kid like you? Christ, I hated that bloody woman. Every time she belted me, I hated her, I hated men, I hated everybody. I ran away when I was 14. Men. And then that Scotch bastard, Ponce. He wanted me to... And when I had a kid, they said it needed care and protection. I wasn't suitable to look after it. They took it away, fucking children's department. My own kid. I don't know where she is. They took her away. Have her adopted, they said. It's the only fair thing for her, to give her a chance. No, that's not true. It was me. I said I wanted her adopted. Well, I knew Mac wouldn't have any more to do with me if... He didn't anyhow. How old were you then? 100. Oh, I don't know. 14, 15.
Nearly 17, I met this other fella. As soon as he found out I was pregnant, he didn't want to know. I thought, I'm not having this one, by Christ, they're not. I'm going to have something that's mine. No one's going to take this one away from me. It was Timmy. He's always been mine. I wouldn't let anyone. And then how could I do that? Not that Timmy. That was the first time in his life I've ever lifted... That's what he said. I remember now. As he was leaving, that's what he said. What's the answer to that?
What would his answer be?
It's obvious, isn't it? He went.
Don't you think he might have known before?
No.
I think he did. He must have had some idea. He just didn't want to face it.
He knew? Then why did he...
Because he loved you.
It's only a word, though, isn't it? Love. He's gone.
You've one hell of a long job ahead of you. 2 years, probably 3. She's missed an awful lot of mothering. Oh, it's the same old story, isn't it? Her mother bashed her about, she batters Mandy. When Mandy grows up, she'll do the same to her children, probably. Unless we do something to break up the pattern. How about juvenile court proceedings for the care and protection of the child? Have you made up your mind?
No, not yet. A lot will depend on how she reacts to the idea of Mandy being put with a foster mother. If she can accept that, I'd like to hold off for a bit. If she makes a fight about it. Oh, she's outside now. I better go and see her.
You're not getting much time for your own affairs with us, are you? Margaret. Why not suggest you'll take her to see Mandy with the foster mother?
Oh, hello, Sheila. We know this Mrs. Jackson well. She's a very nice woman. It would only be a temporary measure. You mustn't forget that. And of course you can go and visit Mandy. You can feed her. You can even bath her if you like. Look, Sheila, I know this isn't going to be easy for you. But it would help me if you could tell me what you feel.
Nothing. I don't feel nothing. Why should I?
Because I've taken Mandy away from you, isn't that right? Your first baby, the children's department took away from you. The second, Eddie took away from you. And now the third, I've taken away from you.
That's right.
Sheila, it's not the same. With Mandy, it's different. You can get her back. And you will, if things work out. And I'm not stopping you seeing her, but I am protecting her. I have to do that. And perhaps I have to protect you, Sheila. I still don't quite understand what made you do it. Do you? Even then, she didn't cry. Maybe she won't anymore. Sometimes reality's too painful for crying. But she still can't talk about it. Today, she seemed a little more cheerful, though still not very talkative. Just for a moment, once, I thought she was going to smile. The baby was discharged from hospital today, and I think she took it quite well when I told her we'd put her with a foster mother. But she wasn't in the next time I called. A rejection, because I've put her baby into somebody else's care? Well, it's understandable. I must get her to come with me to Mrs. Jackson's and actually see the baby. Well, she took it much better and more calmly than I could ever have hoped. She appears to have accepted, for the time being at least, that this is the only realistic solution. The house isn't very far from the Sykes farm, so she can visit fairly easily. Today, she asked me if I'd go with her again, the next time.
And what did you say to that?
Yes, of course.
You'll encourage the dependency for a while.
Well, I'll try. Well, she's got to depend on somebody, otherwise she'll never be able to cope with Mandy depending on her.
It's going to make great demands on you. Well, what about holidays? What about when she gets a job and starts wanting to go in the evenings or on Sunday afternoons? What about your own life?
Oh, didn't I tell you? My sister's moved in with me now. You know what she's like, Audrey. She's got enough social life for both of us.
Boyfriends?
Half a dozen. She's glad when I'm out. You know, it's a funny thing. She's been to bed with far more men than Sheila. And yet by middle-class standards, she's a nice, respectable girl. Because she can look after herself, I suppose.
How about you? Are you looking after yourself?
Oh, I've no ties at the moment. She's probably just as well.
Well, that's no qualification for our kind of life.
I thought that was the image.
It used to be. I'm going to the theatre tonight.
Are you? Good for you.
I'd have lived with him without marrying him. It was his idea, not mine. As soon as he found out I was pregnant, nothing else would do. But I didn't force him. I would have gone on as we was. It didn't matter to me.
Where would he go with a little boy? Where do you think?
No, I wouldn't want you to go after him.
But he's probably terribly unhappy, too. I wouldn't try to talk him into anything like that. Something he's got to work out for himself. But at least it might help if he could talk to somebody. For all your sakes.
He once worked on a fairground. If ever he wanted regular money, he said... There must be hundreds of them.
Oh, we've got contacts all over the
Oh,
country.
you'd never find
Or we
him.
could try. What was Timmy's father like?
Rotten. Gambling, drinking, usual things, you know. I used to wait up for him to come home at night because I was lonely and I wanted him. And when he'd come in, he'd be drunk and looking for a row so he could knock me about. Then one day when he weren't there, I walked out with Timmy and that was that.
You love Timmy very much, don't you?
More than anyone ever. Till I met Eddie. That was the thing about him, you see, why I was so different. He took me and the kid straight off. I didn't even have to ask him. I mean, if he'd have said he didn't want him, I would have given him away like his sister to one of them children's departments. It's funny that. They took one off me, and if it meant keeping Eddie, they could have had the other one too. But he never did. That's why having Mandy, I thought having a daughter with Eddie, I thought it was going to be like starting again.
But Eddie loves Mandy, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he does. He was always on at me to look after her more.